Okay, so we have learned how to solve quadratics by graphing. That's where you graph it and you look at where it crosses the x-axis. We've solved by factoring. We've solved by square root. Now we're going to solve by completing the square. Solving by completing the square is related to solving using the square root, except that there's one little tidbit that we have to do. So if you look at 24, can you take the square root of 24? Like, is it a perfect square root? No, it's not. And we know that it would be close to 5, but if you doubled the square root, you would not get 10. So this is not, we can't go straight to solving by the square root. So what we're going to do is, and you guys, completing the square works nicely for two things. When A is not a number, it's 1, and B is an even number. If those two things work out, we're going to do ones that it doesn't work out that way, but just so I can show you, because when it comes down to it and you get a method, you want to pick the correct method for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to take half of B and we're going to square it. Okay, because you guys just told me that we couldn't take the square root of 24. Okay, so before we do that, we need to get rid of the 24 because we're gonna solve this. So we're gonna make our own perfect square trinomial. So what I need to do is I need to move the 24 from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. So I'm going to have a new equation. I'm going to have x squared minus 10x plus a blank equals, I'm moving that 24 over here, plus a blank. These two blanks are going to be the same. Those are going to match. How we get that blank is by taking half of B and squaring it. Well, B happens to be 10. So I'm going to take half of 10 and I'm going to square it. And whatever that answer is, I'm going to put here and I'm going to put here. So what is half of 10? 5. And when I square it, what do I get? 25. So I'm going to put 25 here and I'm going to put 25 here. Now, what we just did is we just added a step to solving by the square root. Can you take the square root of 25? Yes, you can. It's 5. And then you double it, what do you get? 10. So what we've just done is created it. So we're going to do x, this is minus, so minus 5 squared. And we're actually going to do this. Negative 24 plus 25 is 1. So the difference between what we just got done doing, the solving by square root, and this, is that we actually have to play around with the equation to make it work for us. So we have to move that c over, create another c, to get it all here. And now we can take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to take the square root of x minus 5 squared, and I'm going to take the square root of 1. I would be left with x minus 5 equals plus or minus 1. Now you can break it up like we talked about in the last video. X minus 5 equals 1. X minus 5 equals negative 1. If you add 5 to both sides on this one, you get x equals 6. If you add 5 to both sides on this one, you get x equals 4. What that means is the parabola crosses the x-axis at the at 6 and 4. There any questions? Did I go over it too fast? Did I go too slow? Okay. So we're going to do the same thing with number 7. But you guys, before you just assume, let's look. Can you take the square root of 9? Yeah, it's 3. When you double 3, do you get 10? No. So that means we're going to need to move that 9 over. Since 9, this is positive 9, so I'm going to rewrite the problem. Whoops, there's an X here. Plus blank equals that positive 9, that 9 was positive, so when I move it to the other side, it would be negative 9 plus the blank. Again, I'm trying to figure out what that blank will be. And in order to figure out what that blank will be, I'm going to take half of b, and I'm going to square it, and that's going to equal the c, which is the blank. So half of 10 is 5. 5 squared is 25. If I put 25 in this blank, I need to put 25 in this blank. So again, I put this number into here. You guys, any even number, it just happens to be the two examples I gave you were 10. If it was 20, you would take half of 20 and square it, and you would put 100 there. Okay, now we're going to put this in this form. So x, this is positive, so this is positive. The square root of 25 is 5. And negative 9 plus 25 is 16. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And I get x plus 5 equals plus or minus 4. Because the square root of 16 is 4. And you guys, again, because there's an equal sign and you take the square root, that is why I have a plus and a minus. So I would have x plus 5 equals 4, because that's my positive 4. And I would have x plus 5 equals negative 4. This one would be x equals negative 9, because 4 minus 5 is negative 1. Did I say? And then negative 4 minus 5 equals negative 9. Helps if you guys can see that. I apologize. So again, I just did x plus 5 equals 4 for that positive 4. 4 minus 5 is negative 1. It is not. Yes, it is negative 1. And then x plus 5 equals negative 4. Negative 4 minus 5 is negative 9. Okay. Now, not all of these equations can we always assume that they're going to have an a equaling 1. And remember, a is in front of the x squared term, or the quadratic term. You guys remember, just a brief reminder, that this is your quadratic term, this is your linear term, this is your constant term. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I actually want to change this equation. I want to change that 3 to a 2, because I want to show you what happens when one works and one doesn't. So we're just going to do a minor change to number 9, and we're going to change that to a 2, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to divide everything by a. That's the first thing you need to do. So if a is not 1, we have to divide everything by 2. So we're going to divide everything by 2. I know I skipped number 8, but I'm going to come back to it, because that one's a fraction, and so this one works out a little bit better. So I'm left with x squared plus 7x minus 8 equals 0. Well, this one's going to be a fraction too, but not nearly as bad. Okay, so it doesn't work because clearly 8 is not going to, there's nothing that doubles to get 7. So I'm going to move the 8 from this side to that side. So I'm going to have a new equation. X squared plus 7x plus a blank equals 8 plus a blank. Well, same thing, okay? We have to do the same thing. It's just that b is not an even number, right? So this is where you're going to start thinking about whether you want to use completing the square. 7, can you take half of 7? Half of 7 squared. Does that come out to be beautiful? And what I mean by does it come out to be a whole number? No. Well, what is 7 over 2 squared? But you're never going to write it as a decimal. They only want fractions. Okay. It comes out okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do x, this is plus, this is plus. The square root of 49/4 is 7/2. And what is 8 plus 49/4? Well, this would be 32/4, right? So what is 49 plus 32? 81/4? The bell's about to ring. We'll finish this up tomorrow. So leave it right there, okay?